Hi, my name is Lauren Kapalka Richerme from Indiana University Jacobs School of Music, and this session is entitled Finding Out About Policy. It's as easy as checking Facebook. I'm going to discuss three main things in this session. First, the levels of policy discourse. Second, how to keep up to date on current education policies. And third, how to become more involved in policy creation and implementation. It's important to remember that policy occurs at three different levels. You have national, state, and local levels. So for example, national mandates that are going on right now, such as Race to the Top, and the flexibility from the mandates of No Child Left Behind, are impacting state legislatures and their resulting mandates. In turn, these state policies affect what's going on in local classrooms, and individual school leaders and districts make policies that affect teachers' work on the ground. This can also work in the opposite direction, where local innovations and designs impact state and national policy. It is important to consider these three levels of policy when talking about policy discourse and action. Now I'd like to talk about how you can keep up to date on current policies. There are a number of websites that I find particularly useful for finding out the latest policy information. One website I find particularly helpful is edweek.org. You can go on there and register for free. And once you do that, you'll get daily emails with links to stories about policies. You can also follow them on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, or in your RSS feed. I recommend using whatever method you use to get the rest of your news so that the policies come naturally to you day to day. There are also a number of other websites that will help you keep up on national education news. I find the New York Times education page very helpful and insightful, and you can follow them on Twitter, Facebook, or on your RSS feed. Education Votes is an arm of the NEA, and again, you can get them in your email, Twitter, Facebook, or RSS. It's important to know that the NEA is a union, so the news that you will be reading through this listserv or from the website will be biased towards the union views. However, I find it important to know what these leaders think about current education policies. Another new website that I have found helpful is the National Education Policy Center, which is based in Colorado. And they've done a good job recently of explaining some national policies and giving more insight into some studies that have been done. Another important way to keep up on national policy is blogs. Blogs are useful because while biased, they can give you an idea of how policies might be implemented on the ground. Sometimes just reading about policies in general doesn't quite tell you what will happen in practice. And blogs can often give you a better idea of how leaders in the field think that policies will function. There are a number of blogs that you can follow. EdWeek actually has a number of good ones that they sponsor that you might consider following. Other ones that I and my colleagues enjoy are Diane Ravitch's blog, Grant Wiggins' blog, the Chronicle of Higher Education blog, or you can simply Google for education blogs, and you'll get hundreds of results. It's also important to think about arts policy websites and listservs. They can give you a more detailed overview of how policies may affect the arts education community specifically. One website that's particularly helpful for music educators is NAFME's Groundswell. This is a subset of NAFME's larger website, and they have a blog that's updated fairly often and addresses current policy issues and how they will affect music educators. Another useful arts policy website is Americans for the Arts. This is a broader coalition that covers certified arts educators in addition to teaching artists and museum educators and other individuals. However, it's important that we understand how policies affect the larger arts and education field. This website does a nice job of informing viewers of local, national, and international arts news. So now that you're informed about policy, how can you be more actively involved in it? Well, it's actually as simple as just writing and talking. When considering writing, you might ask how you can write at the national, state, and local levels. At the national level, some websites, such as Americans for the Arts, actually have links that will allow you to directly contact your state legislatures. For example, if you go on their website and click on Policy and Advocacy, you'll be taken to a list of issues. And then once you decide on what issue is important to you, ask to enter your zip code. From there, they will directly link you to the email addresses for your U.S. senators and U.S. representatives. They give you a form letter that you can alter in order to put forward information about the selected policy and send it to your representatives. Other websites, such as the NEA, have similar features. At the state level, you can almost always find a list of your local representatives. On most of these websites, you can enter your zip code and find out who directly represents you. It's important to contact those who you will directly vote for in the future. Another thing you can do to get involved with policy is talking. Talking by calling or visiting your representatives at the state or local level is often more effective than communicating via email, because it lends a personal voice to your message. While you may not talk to your representative directly, talking to his or her aides is also very important and can have a large impact on that person's future voting. At the local level, it's important to remember to talk to your principals and other administrators about policy. You can also talk to local school board members, legislators, and other elected officials. These people will be able to inform you about latest policies, and they may even ask your advice on those policies. If you're given an opportunity to help with policy creation, it's important that you consider getting involved and letting your voice be heard. Here are a couple of tips for writing and talking to your elected representatives. First, you want to make sure that you speak to specific legislation and bills. Make sure you know what action you want the person to take. Simply asking him or her to advocate for arts education will not necessarily give you your desired results. Personal stories can be extremely important. Speaking honestly about how music has impacted your life and the lives of others can deeply affect your representatives. You might also ask your representatives if they have a personal story that they can share. Lastly, using facts whenever possible can help strengthen your case. Currently, the NAFME advocacy website has a Make Your Case database that has links to many research studies that you may find helpful when advocating for your program or for specific ends. In summary, I challenge you to sign up for at least one national education list and follow one education blog. I also ask you to consider how you might try contacting a local, state, or national policy major. Thank you, and please feel free to email me with any questions.